It's a story that feels like it came straight from a movie script, but this is all too real. Many of us remember Sean Kingston, the artist whose song Beautiful Girls became the anthem of the summer back in 2007. His unique blend of reggae, pop, and R&B captured the hearts of millions around the world, making him a household name. With other hits like Take You There and Fire Burning, Kingston solidified his place in the music industry as a vibrant and talented performer. His music was about fun, love, and living a carefree life, which makes the recent headlines about him so startling and deeply disappointing for the fans who grew up listening to his songs. The image of the smiling young artist singing into a microphone is now contrasted with a much more somber one: a man facing a federal judge. Keyshawn Paul Anderson, the man the world knows as Sean Kingston, found himself in a situation that had nothing to do with music charts or sold-out concerts. Instead, he was at the center of a serious legal battle, accused of participating in a widespread fraud scheme. The news of his arrest in May 2024 sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, especially since it happened while he was at a U.S. Army base in California, preparing to perform for the troops. It was a dramatic fall from grace for a star who once seemed to have it all. This journey from the stage to the courtroom is a cautionary tale about how quickly things can change. For many, Sean Kingston represented a success story, a young man who turned his passion for music into a global career. He collaborated with huge stars like Justin Bieber and traveled the world, living a life that many can only dream of. The allegations, however, painted a very different picture. They suggested a pattern of deceit and a lifestyle funded not by his musical talent but by tricking people out of their valuable possessions. This case forces us to look beyond the celebrity persona and examine the choices made behind the scenes. The fall was not just sudden, it was public. The raid on his rented Florida mansion by a SWAT team was broadcast across news channels, bringing the reality of the situation into sharp focus. His mother, Janice Turner, was arrested at the home, while he was taken into custody thousands of miles away. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding or a minor legal issue. These were federal charges, carrying the weight of serious prison time. The story of Sean Kingston has now become a lesson not just about the music industry, but about the consequences that follow when one's actions stray so far from the law, regardless of fame or past success. So what exactly happened? The heart of the case against Sean Kingston and his mother was a charge called wire fraud. Now that term can sound complicated, but it's actually quite simple. Wire fraud is when someone uses electronic communications, like emails, text messages, or wire transfers, to trick someone else into giving them money or property under false pretenses. In this case, prosecutors said Kingston and his mother used his fame as a tool to convince businesses they were legitimate customers, only to leave them with empty promises and significant financial losses. It was a modern-day scam that relied on the power of a celebrity name. The scheme, which authorities say amounted to over $1 million, was cleverly orchestrated. It often began with Kingston using his social media influence to connect with sellers of high-end luxury goods. Imagine getting a message from a famous musician wanting to buy your product. You would likely be thrilled and trusting. The duo would allegedly promise these businesses not only payment but also promotional exposure, suggesting that a post from Sean Kingston to his millions of followers would be great for their brand. This added layer of incentive made their offers even more attractive to unsuspecting victims, who believed they were entering into a mutually beneficial partnership. After building this trust, the next step involved creating the illusion of payment. Kingston and his mother would allegedly send fake wire transfer receipts to the sellers. These documents looked real, making it seem as if a large sum of money was on its way to the seller's bank account. Believing they had been paid, the companies would then ship their expensive goods. The items they obtained this way were extravagant, including a bulletproof Cadillac Escalade, a massive 19-foot LED television screen, and a collection of very expensive watches. By the time the businesses realized the money was never coming, the items were long gone. This wasn't a one-time event, but a repeated pattern of behavior that took place over nearly a year, from April 2023 to March 2024. The victims were left in a difficult position, often having to pursue legal action just to try and get their money or property back. The federal jury was ultimately convinced by the evidence presented and found both Kingston and his mother guilty of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, along with several individual counts of the crime. The verdict confirmed that this was not a series of misunderstandings but a deliberate and calculated effort to defraud multiple people and companies. When it came time for sentencing on August 15, 2025, the courtroom was filled with anticipation. Federal prosecutors had recommended a 5-year prison sentence for Sean Kingston, which would have matched the term his mother, Janice Turner, received a month earlier. However, the judge decided on a different path. Kingston was sentenced to 3.5 years in federal prison, a year and a half less than his mother. This difference in sentencing wasn't random, it was based on several key factors that the judge carefully considered, highlighting a critical lesson about accountability in the eyes of the law. One of the most important reasons for the more lenient sentence was Kingston's behavior during the trial. The judge pointed out a crucial difference between him and his mother. Sean Kingston did not take the stand and lie. In the legal world, honesty and taking responsibility, even after a conviction, can make a significant impact. By not attempting to deceive the court further, Kingston showed a level of remorse that the judge acknowledged. His attorney, Robert Rosenblatt, emphasized that this acceptance of responsibility was a major reason why the sentence was lower than the federal guidelines suggested. It was a clear message that while the crime was serious, his conduct in court mattered. Another factor that played a significant role was restitution. Restitution is the act of paying back the victims for their losses. The court learned that Kingston had made efforts to repay most of the people and businesses he had defrauded. This act of making things right, at least financially, demonstrated a tangible effort to undo some of the harm he had caused. While it doesn't erase the crime, it shows the court that the defendant understands the real-world impact of their actions on others. Paying back the victims was a powerful gesture that likely weighed heavily in the judge's final decision, showing a commitment to correcting his mistakes. Finally, Kingston's past charitable actions were also brought to the judge's attention. While his recent crimes were the focus of the trial, his history also included positive contributions to the community. These acts of goodwill, though separate from the case, helped paint a more complete picture of him as a person. The judge was presented with a man who had made terrible choices but who had also used his platform for good in the past. This combination of taking responsibility, making restitution, and having a record of positive community involvement ultimately led the judge to impose a sentence that was punitive, but also reflected a belief in the potential for rehabilitation. The story of Sean Kingston's rise, fall, and sentencing serves as a powerful reminder that fame and fortune are not shields against the consequences of our choices. In fact, celebrity status can sometimes make the fall even harder and more public. This case underscores a timeless lesson. Integrity and honesty are values that matter more than any hit record or luxury car. For a while it may have seemed like Kingston's fame was a key that could unlock any door, but ultimately, it was the law that had the final say. The very influence he used to carry out the fraud could not protect him from the accountability that followed. The difference between Sean Kingston's sentence and his mother's 5-year term offers another important insight. It highlights the value our justice system places on truthfulness. His decision not to lie under oath was seen as a sign of respect for the court and an acknowledgement of his wrongdoing. It shows that even when you are facing the most serious of consequences, there is still a choice to be made between deception and honesty. That choice can have a real and measurable impact on your future. It's a lesson that applies to everyone, not just those in the public eye. Owning your mistakes is the first and most critical step toward making amends. Furthermore, the emphasis on paying back the victims reminds us that our actions have real-world effects on other people. The businesses that were tricked were not faceless corporations. They were run by individuals who lost significant amounts of money and property. Kingston's efforts to make restitution, while they couldn't undo the breach of trust, were a necessary step in addressing the financial damage. This part of the story teaches us about the importance of empathy and responsibility. True remorse isn't just about saying you're sorry. It's about doing what you can to fix the harm you've caused to others. In the end, Sean Kingston, now 35, is trading the stage for a prison cell. His journey ahead will be one of reflection and hopefully rehabilitation. For all of us watching, his story is a sobering, cautionary tale. It's a lesson that no matter how high you climb, the foundation of your success must be built on solid ground. Making smart, honest choices is what truly defines a person's character, far more than any fleeting moment of fame or material wealth. The music may have stopped for now, but the lessons from this chapter of his life will echo for a long time.